Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, so for today, I'm going to explain to you about our chapter 2, which is the resident status of an individual. If you could still remember, last week I have explained to you that the reason why you study tax for this semester is actually for you to compute, okay? To compute what will be the tax liability that an individual has to pay to the government, okay? And for this matter, there will be two consequences that might arise where that individual could be a resident or non-resident in Malaysia. But then again, if you want to pay tax in Malaysia, it will be beneficial and you are going to get more advantages if you become a resident, okay, for tax paying purposes. Okay. So this is the objectives. These are the objectives for learning the resident status for an individual. The first one is that because we wanted to determine the resident status, and by doing so, we are going to refer to the Income Tax Act 1967. Okay, so when you learn taxation, whenever you come across any section or whenever they mention about the word act here, it means that we are referring to the Income Tax Act 1967. And also, you need to know what will be the importance of the resident status. And as I said earlier, if you become a resident in any particular country and you have to pay tax in that country, dia lagi baguslah if you become a resident rather than not becoming one. Okay, so this would be the differences of becoming a resident and non-resident. And for this case, we are referring to the Malaysian scenario, and this is as according to the law that was stated for YA 2020. Okay, whenever I mention the word YA here, it means that I'm referring to the year of assessment. Bahasa Melayu kita panggil tahun taksiran. Okay, nanti I will come across explanation sikit lah about the concept of YA. Okay, ini dia punya kisah dia. If you become a resident in Malaysia, what are you going to get? Okay, basically, ini dia punya advantages dia. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 advantages altogether. Saya dah explain juga last week. The first one is that if you are a resident, you will be taxed based on a scale rate. Scale rate ni dia akan tengoklah awak kan income. I have mentioned earlier, kita income ada daripada section 4A sampai ke F, yang kita ada business income, employment income, semua. What happen, kita akan compute semua income ni, awak akan dapat aggregate income, and afterwards you don't have to worry about the format yet, okay, because we are going to come to this later on. Lepas tu ada adjustment kat sini. Nanti finally awak akan sampai kepada chargeable income. Chargeable income means that these are the income that can be charged to tax. Okay, so the scale rate here will depend on your amount of the chargeable income. If your chargeable income is greater, so you are going to be charged at a higher tax rate. Okay, so kalau kata awak punya chargeable income is pretty low, most probably awak kena 0%. Okay, so dia meaning to say, those who have higher income, you have to pay higher tax, which is very fair actually. But if you are a non-resident, for tax paying purposes, you are going to be taxed at a flat rate of 30%, which is a lot. Okay, which is very high. Okay, so definitely, which one is much better, scale rate ataupun flat rate? Scale rate lah. Okay, because dia punya rate tu akan increase gradually depending on the amount of the chargeable income that this taxpayer has. Okay, the second advantage that you can get if you become a resident, if you want to pay tax in Malaysia, is that you are going to get tax relief. Tax relief ni pelepasan. Okay, tadi saya tunjuk kat awak contoh sini ya. After awak dapat aggregate income, ada adjustment kan? Saya kata ni adjustment. Okay, dapat ni ada adjustment. Lepas adjustment tu, yang awak dapat ni namanya total income dulu. Total income. Dah dapat total income, kat sini kita akan tolak relief. Relief ni, the list of reliefs is sangat lengthy, sangat panjang. Contohnya macam purchase of laptop, the purchase of books, child relief, anak berapa orang, apa semua-semua. These are the things that the taxpayer can claim. Relief ni maksudnya dalam tax computation kita akan tolak. Okay, so basically daripada aggregate income, awak akan dapat total income minus with relief, and finally baru dapat chargeable income. This relief is only entitled if you are a resident in Malaysia, and relief is very good. Why? Sebab in our tax computation kita akan tolak, meaning to say your chargeable income will be lesser. You are going to have a lower chargeable income. But again, if you want to be entitled for relief, dia ada dua syarat. Syarat pertama, dia mesti an individual. Secondly, you must be a resident in Malaysia. Nanti bila awak belajar next semester, you can see that a company is also a chargeable person. Company kena bayar tax. Company pun ada resident status, sama ada dia jadi resident or non-resident in Malaysia. But one thing that you need to know, company dia bukan individu. Company is not a natural person. Dia bukan individu. Therefore, company tak layak dapat relief. Sebab syarat nak dapat relief, you have to be an individual, which is a natural person, and you need to be a resident in Malaysia. Kalau awak non-resident, automatically you are not going to be entitled for this relief. Okay, relief ni banyak boleh tolak. Okay, memang banyak. Okay, so kita dah settle pasal tax rate. Resident dapat skill rate. Tax relief, resident will be entitled. Non-resident are not going to be entitled. And finally, ada tax rebate pula. So what is tax rebate? Tax rebate ni ialah, remember awak dapat chargeable income tadi, ini yang saya conteng-conteng kat sini tadi tu. When you have derived at chargeable income, katalah chargeable income awak 100,000, lepas tu what happen, darab dengan scale rate. Sebab kita individual, for example lah awak ialah ini scale rate. Katalah scale rate awak tu ada 24%. 24% maksudnya tax payable awak. Your tax payable ialah 24,000. Okay, 24,000. Lepas tu, because you are a resident, boleh tolak pula tax rebate. Tax rebate, sebab ini kita punya chargeable income 100,000, awak tak dapat self rebate. Okay, ada satu yang kita panggil self rebate. Self rebate ni, if your chargeable income tak exceed 35,000, you are going to get a rebate here RM400. Tapi for this example tak layak lah, sebab chargeable income yang saya bagi kat sini adalah 100,000, so you're not going to get that. You can minus out with the zakat. Whatever zakat yang awak bayar, semua boleh tolak. Let it be zakat fitrah, zakat pendapatan, zakat barang emas, zakat simpanan, semua deductible. Lepas tu yang kita dapat ke sini, inilah akan jadi net tax payable. And again, rebate dia akan reducekan tax payable. Relief akan reducekan kita punya chargeable income. Boleh ya? Okay. So, the first three I have presented to you is about the perks. Perks tu kelebihan lah of becoming a resident in Malaysia for tax paying purposes. Okay, remember the topic here we are talking about the differences. Okay, the first three ni ialah the positive side of becoming a resident in Malaysia. Yang the fourth one is actually tak berapa best sikit. Why? Because if you are a resident in Malaysia and whenever you have an employment income, macam mana kita nak kata wujudnya employment income? Employment akan wujud kalau adanya master and servant relationship. Dia ada relationship as master and servant. Ada seorang jadi bos, ada seorang jadi orang yang dengar cakap bos. You have to execute your task as according to the rules that has been laid out by the master, by your employer. Okay, so whenever you work with someone, you become the servant here. Ini ayat-ayat law lah. That's why dia wujudkan master and servant relationship. Whenever you perform any duty on as being laid out by the master, apa-apa yang dia bayar, yang awak dapat, inilah employment income. Okay, this will be the employment income. For employment income, if you are a resident in Malaysia, okay, whenever you receive employment income, you are going to be taxed on this employment income. Tak kisahlah the duration of your employment tu berapa lama period dia. Katalah awak start kerja pada 1 Januari 2021, baru kerja sebulan dah tak happy. So pada on the 31st of January 2021, which is within 1 month, you tender a resignation letter. Awak hantar surat nak berhenti kerja. So you only work with that company, with that employer for 1 month saja. Tak kisah, janji ada employment income, this employment income that you receive for working within 1 month period is already taxable. Okay, on the other hand, if you are a non-resident in Malaysia and you work in Malaysia, maksudnya wujud employment income, ada master and servant, tapi the period of working tu, dia tak exceed 60 days. Dia tak melebihi 60 days dan dia ada certain test dia kena satisfy. In this case, the employment income will be exempted from tax. Dikecualikan tax dalam Malaysia. Tak payah bayar tax kat Malaysia. Tapi dia ada syarat dia. Okay, untuk this exemption, we are going to learn further dalam chapter ketiga, because our third chapter will be on the employment income itself. So whenever we talk about the employment income, nanti akan wujudlah dekat satu part where we are going to look at the exemption of this. But basically, if someone were to ask you question or exam sendiri during your test, nanti dia tanya what are the differences between the resident and non-resident. These are the 4 characteristics that make it difference between resident dan non-resident. Tapi yang the first 3 ni advantage untuk resident, the last one is actually an advantage to the non-resident. Okay, now basically dia sangat beneficial untuk jadi resident. Resident ni lagi bagus, dia dapat bintang 5 star ni. Okay, if you want to pay tax, if you need to pay tax in Malaysia, it is much better for you to become a resident. But how are you going to be considered as a resident in Malaysia? And again, we are talking about an individual here. How do we determine the resident status of an individual? Dia kata, by reference, by looking at the number of days an individual person is present in Malaysia during a particular calendar year. Maksudnya, awak guna budget 2020. Maksudnya, we are going to look at year 2020. Year 2020 is going to start from 1 January hingga 31st December. Jadi, kita akan tengok during this period. Okay, kalau awak tengah determine untuk year 2020. Okay, jadi kisah dia kata by looking at the number of days. Maksudnya, dia ni memang pakai kaedah kuantitatif. Quantitative is something that can be counted. Okay, what are the things that we are going to be count? Kita akan count the number of days that individual is present in Malaysia. Okay, kita akan tengok. Okay, syarat dia nak determine resident status macam gitu. Tengok number of days yang dia present in Malaysia. Lepas tu ni syarat yang kedua dia kata apa pula? Part of the day will be counted as 1 day in Malaysia. Assuming that this person is about to leave Malaysia, dia nak tinggalkan Malaysia pada 1 April 2020, because dia kena pergi ke Thailand. Oh, masa ni dah kita dah has been badly affected by COVID-19. Katalah 1 Januari, sebab 1 Januari kan kita still lagi tak MCO lagi. Okay, this person is leaving Malaysia pada 1 Januari 2020. Dia nak kapal terbang. Kapal terbang tu akan depart pada pukul 8 pagi, 8 AM. So 8 AM baru dia tinggalkan Malaysia ke Thailand. Dia Thailand is not that far from Malaysia. So dia akan sampai Thailand pada 1 Januari juga. 1 Januari juga. So the issue here, on the 1st of January, this person doesn't stay in Malaysia for 24 hours. But as what the law say here, part of the day will be counted as one day in Malaysia. So 1/1/2020 pada 8 AM dia dah keluar daripada Malaysia, tapi kita still consider 1/1 sebagai satu hari penuh dia ada di Malaysia, because part of the day will be counted as one day. Okay, so point yang ketiga, dia kata apa pula? The citizenship ataupun the permanent resident ataupun dia punya nationality, dia punya kewarganegaraan is irrelevant. Irrelevant, not relevant, irrelevant. Doesn't matter whether you are a Malaysian or a foreigner, whatever your citizenship is, untuk kira resident status for tax purposes, ini untuk tax purposes, ini semua tak diambil kira. Okay, so really hope that awak boleh faham benda ni. Ini semua tak diambil kira. Okay, remember just now dia kata we are going to look at the number of days that individual is present in Malaysia. So the number of days we are going to start from January until December. January sampai December. Okay, January sampai December. Untuk January, ni kena tahulah, semua orang terror kot ni kan. There will be 31 days for January, 28 days in February, unless if that year is a leap year. How do you know whether that year is a leap year? Ambil tahun tu bagi 4. For example, awak kan soalan nanti tahun 2020, dia pakai basis year dia. Tahun 2020 divided by 4, awak dapat number cantik 505, number bulat. Dia tak ada decimal point. If there is no decimal point, meaning to say this year is a leap year. So untuk awak jawab tahun 2020 nanti, kena ingat dia ada 29 days, not 28 days. The moment macam 2019 divided by 4, you are going to get 504.75. The moment you have a decimal point, meaning to say 2019 is not a leap year. So 2019 dia ada 28 days only. Lepas tu kita ada March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Okay, because this is very crucial. We are going to really count the days, and you have to be very precise. Very precise tu you have to be very tepat lah. Tentang berapa hari dia ada semua tu. Okay, I'll move on to the next slide. So this is the format on how to answer the question, and you have to follow this format closely. You're going to have first column untuk tulis YA, the second column to write down the period of stay. Period of stay ni kita akan ikut balik yang macam dalam soalan, and then you are going to count based on the period of stay how many days yang dia ada. This will be the third column. Lepas tu the fourth column, you need to answer whether that person is a resident ataupun non-resident. Dan for resident purposes, dia ada 4 subsection. Untuk resident status, we are going to refer to section 7, subsection 1. Dia ada 1A, B, C, D. And here, you have to be very careful. Kenapa? Dia pakai small letter. Siapa tulis 71A besar, ini salah. It need to be section 7, 1A kecil. Okay, so yang ni kena tulis lah, dia jadi resident by reference to which section. A ke, bukan tulis A, awak kena tulis macam ni, section 7 1A ataupun section 7 1B ke apa. Kalau dia non-resident, maksudnya tak ada satu section ni pun yang dia boleh pakai, so tak adalah. Tapi reason nanti kita akan taruh. Okay, so you have to follow this format closely. Okay, as I have mentioned to you earlier, for determining the resident status of an individual, we are going to refer to section 7.1. Okay, section 7.1, they lay down 4 circumstances where an individual can be considered as a tax resident in Malaysia. You can either have section 7.1A, B, C or D. Macam mana nak baca section ni? First kali, kita test dulu that particular individual dengan section 7.1A. Kalau bawah Section 71A, dia dah jadi resident, dah settle. Tak payah tengok Section 71B, C lagi semua dah. Tapi katakan sekarang ni, under Section 71A, that person tak jadi resident. Baru kita test kepada Section 71B. Tengok syarat Section 71B. Kalau dia jadi resident, stop. Tak payah buat apa-apa dah. Tak payah test lagi C dengan D ni. Tapi kalau tengok Section 71B, dia bukan resident juga under Section 71B, then only you move to Section 71C. Kita test dia pula bawah Section 71C. Kalau under Section 71C, that person become a resident, you don't have to proceed dah dengan Section 71D. Biar je. Tapi, when you refer to Section 71C, that person still jadi non-resident, then only kita akan move kepada Section 71D. Okay, baru kita buat Section 71D. Section 71D, kalau dia fulfill all the requirement, dia satisfy all the requirement, dia jadi resident. Tapi kalau Section 71D pun dia tak juga jadi, dia tak satisfy, dia akan jadi non-resident. Maksudnya, dia akan jadi non-resident betul-betul lah for that particular of year. Okay, now kita akan masuk Section 71A. Lagi tadi saya cakap, yang ni tak boleh A besar ya, dia kena A kecil. So, saya tulis balik lagi sekali. Kita yang ni Section 71A. A ni small letter. So, dia kata syarat di bawah Section 71A. A person will be a resident in Malaysia under Section 71A if that individual is physically present in Malaysia at least 182 days in the current calendar year. The 182 days tu doesn't have to be consecutively in sequent days. Okay, apa maksud dia? Maksud dia dalam tahun yang kita nak tengok tu, for example year 2020, that person must be in resident, physically in resident at least. At least tu maksudnya minimum. Minimum maksudnya macam mana ya? Macam ni sekurang-kurangnya 182 hari. Dan dia tak kisah berterusan pun boleh ataupun tak berterusan pun boleh. Ayat law kita panggil it can be singular period, dalam singular period ataupun dalam multiple period dia tempoh duduk. Okey, contoh saya buat katalah single period pun boleh, multiple period pun boleh. Katalah in year 2020 dia ini kita akan start 1st January, we are going to start back 31st December. This person, dia stay masa awal ni selama 40 days. Lepas tu dia left Malaysia. Dia masuk balik kat sini. Saya akan tunjuk yang simple dulu. Okay. Allahu Akbar kabira. Sorry tak nak padam pula. Okay, tak apa. Katalah dia stay daripada 3 Januari sampai tempoh ni. Dia duduk daripada 3 Januari sampai 31st August. Dia duduk dalam Malaysia. Berapa hari tu? Nak tahu berapa hari, kita tengok tadi yang saya tunjuk kat awak. Okey, dia duduk daripada 3 Januari. Okey, sampai bila tadi 31st August. So dia duduk 31, 30, 31. Untuk Februari pun dia duduk penuh. Untuk Januari ada 31 hari. Dia start duduk, dia start ada di Malaysia daripada 3 hari bulan Januari kan. So berapa hari Januari tu awak ambil 31 tolak 3 tambah 1. Kena tambah 1. Okey, kalau tak nanti awak bilang dengan jari dia tak akan tepat. Kalau awak tolak 31 tolak 3 maksudnya kita tak kira hari yang 3 hari bulan tu. Okey, so kita kena tambah 1. Baru 3 hari bulan tu dia consider. So dia duduk di Malaysia for 29 days. Cuba awak campur ni. Apa awak dapat ni? 29 campur 29 campur 31, 30. Definitely awak akan dapat more than 182 days kan? Okay. So in this case, what happened is that, this person is a resident in Malaysia. Pada YA bila? 2020. 20. Bawah section apa? Section 71A. Kenapa? Sebab dia ada di Malaysia untuk ni. So cara nak jawab dia tadi kan saya suruh awak ni, awak tulislah YA dia 2020. Period of stay dia awak buat 3 Januari 2020 sehingga 31 Ogos 2020. Tolong tulis berapa actual number of days tu. Dia punya status dia resident. Section apa yang kita pakai? Section 71A. Reason kenapa? Stay in Malaysia at least 182 hari. Stay in Malaysia at least 182 days. This is how you are supposed to answer the question. Okay, tadi saya kata yang ni kita panggil single period. Kenapa single period? Sebab dia become resident. Kejap, I need to change the colour of my pen. Saya rasa. Let me go with blue lah. Okay, merah ni sangat. Merah is too terang. Okay. Alright. So tadi ni dia duduk macam ni. Merah juga jadi dia. I'm so sorry lah. Okay. So dia jadi macam ni. Okay. Yang ni kita panggil single period. Dia duduk dalam tempoh single period. Macam mana pula yang jadi multiple period? Multiple period ialah ini year 2020. Year 2020. Yang ni start dengan 1 Januari, ended on 31st December. Masa ni dia duduk sekejap. Okay, dia duduk sekejap. Yang ni katalah 50 hari. Okay, lepas tu dia left Malaysia. Lepas tu dia masuk balik. Dia duduk 30 hari. Lepas tu dia left Malaysia. And then dia masuk balik. Yang ni dia duduk selama 120 hari. Okay, bila kita campur ni dapat berapa altogether? 200 days, right? 200 days. Ini yang kita panggil sebagai multiple period. 1, 2, 3. Tapi dia still lagi dalam YA 2020. Dia tak langgar tahun. Jadi, kita boleh campur period yang dia duduk ni dalam dia punya multiple period ni. So, altogether awak dapat 200 days. Kalau macam kes ni, awak akan tulis juga. Awak akan tulis macam mana? 2020. Lepas tu tulislah period yang dia duduk mula-mula. Katalah dia duduk daripada 1 Januari hingga kata berapa 31st March ke. Awak ikut yang tempoh dia duduk kat dalam Malaysia. Period of stay ni kena tulis period yang dia duduk dalam Malaysia. Period yang dia tak ada dalam Malaysia tak payah tulis. Okay, lepas tu number of days tadi kita dapat 200 days. So status resident. Kenapa resident? By virtue of section 71A. Kenapa? Sebab dia stay in Malaysia at least, okay, ataupun minimum 182 days. Which is dia duduk for how many days in this case? Dia duduk for 200 days. Jadi when this individual bayar tax untuk YA 2020 nanti, dia dapatlah benefit tadi. Boleh dapat relief, dapat rebate, dapat scale rate. So inilah the benefit yang dia dapat. Okay, so ini ialah example, and this example is actually taken daripada June 2018. Okay, June 2018. Dia kata the following is the period of stay in Malaysia for Jonathan, an Australian citizen who is attached to a private college in Penang. He first arrived in Penang on 3rd January 2014. Okay, yang ni kita nak tengok sama ada, kita baru belajar section 71A kan. Section 71A dia simple je. Tahun tu nak jadi resident mesti duduk at least berapa hari? 182 hari. Sama ada putus-putus ataupun consecutively bersambung. Okay, jadi saya nak tanya awak, macam mana kita nak tahu orang tu ada kat Malaysia daripada tempoh from which state to which state? Maksudnya, kes macam ni, IRB dia akan refer kepada international passport, because whenever you leave Malaysia, dia akan chop departure. Okay, bila awak masuk ke dalam Malaysia, kat passport dia akan chop arrival. So nanti kita akan refer to the passport lah, tengok the date of departure and arrival. Lepas tu kita akan buat calculation. Okay, lagi sekali tak boleh padam juga dah. Allahu Akbar. Never mind. Conteng ya. Okay, so this is the period of stay for Jonathan untuk tahun dia first coming into Malaysia pada 3rd of January. Dia start datang 3rd January. Soalan ni dia kata determine the resident status for Jonathan starting from YA 2014 sampai 2017. Provide the relevant section. Okay, jadi kita akan buatlah YA dia YA 2014 dulu. Period of stay dia awak akan tulis macam mana? 3 Januari. Awak akan tulis macam ni. Ikut dalam format yang saya buat tadi ya. Okey, YA 2014. Lepas tu period of stay dia awak akan buat 3 Januari sehingga berapa? 30 November. 3 Januari hingga ni 30 November. First kali kena tengok 2014, is it a leap year or not? 2014 cuba bahagi dengan 4. 5. 4 kali berapa dapat 4? Tak ada kan? 4 kali 3, 12. 4 kali 4, 16. So kalau ni dia dapat decimal point. So 2014 is not a leap year. Jadi Februari ada berapa hari je? 28. Untuk Januari ada 31 bulan. Tolak 3 tambah 1. So awak ada 29 hari. Lepas tu campur Februari 28. March 31, April 30, Mei 31, Jun 30, Julai 31, Ogos 31, Februari September. Awak campur ni. Okey, campur bagi dapat berapa hari lepas tu. Okey, lepas tu masukkan dalam kolom lah berapa hari. Lepas tu bagi kes ni memang dia exceed, dia dapat 182 days, dia meet the criteria at least 182 hari. So YA 2018 dia resident by virtue of section 7(1)(a). Okay, because the number of stay is dia reach the minimum number of days tu. Dia stay in Malaysia for at least 182 days. Alright. So kita tengok pula. Oh, tak boleh padam lagi sekali. Sekejap. Okay. So 2014 dah settle. Lepas tu sekarang ni kita tengok pula yang lain-lain untuk tahun-tahun yang lain. Tapi you have to be careful here because dia ada additional information. Additional information dia okey, tak apa. Kita tengok dulu kita tengah buat section 71A sebab yang ni dia pakai section yang berbeza. Untuk yang ini kita tengok 2015 dia masuk dalam Malaysia 10 Februari. 10 Februari dia duduk tapi dia ada ni dia visit mak dia apa semua. Okey, jadi yang ni dia masuk section lain Ini masuk section 71B. Saya akan masuk dalam saya punya next video untuk section 71B. So the first video here saya cuma explain pasal section 71A. Under section 71A, that individual must be in Malaysia at least 182 hari and it can be dalam single period ataupun multiple period. Okay, so nanti saya akan kasih saya punya second video which is about section 71B. Thank you for listening.